Welcome to the Empire Builders podcast. Dave Young here with Stephen Semple, and we're telling the stories of empires that were built up by people with an idea, business people. And Stephen just whispered today's topic into my ear, and I don't know.
You know the
Connect
game, Connect
Connect Four.
4.
No, I don't think I've ever played Connect Four. It's a game.
You've
You're
never
telling me
played
it's a
it's a
game.
game. I'm telling
Is
you
it a
it's a
computer
game.
game? It's a board
No.
game.
No, you know it no, it's not a board game either, and that's what makes it interesting. It's the one which is a vertical game, and you connect 4, you drop them in the top, and
Oh,
you
you drop
connect.
those little things. Yeah, no, I've never played that.
You've never played it, okay?
No, I never have. I've seen people doing it, and I thought it was, well, it's just sort of like cornhole or some stupid thing. I don't.
So, but
I've
now
seen
you
people
know
doing
the
like
game
like
at
playing
least,
it
right?
with like a giant set and beers in
Yeah.
their hands, and yeah,
Okay.
okay. So
All
it's,
right.
it's that
Well,
game.
you
It's
know,
it's.
it's that game. Well, despite the fact you've
Let me
never
guess.
played
Let me
it,
guess.
it's done
Let me
pretty
guess.
well.
Let me guess. You have to have four colors in a row.
You have to have 4
All
colors in a
right.
row. That's it. That's it.
Ding
Connect
ding ding
4.
ding ding. All right.
You know, despite the fact that you've never played the game, it is done pretty well. Sorry, what
How many do they sell? Let's get that in.
about 10,000,000 a
All
year.
right. That's it. Thanks for joining us on the Empire Builders.
Wow, you know, it's
Yeah,
amazing how many times we do this stuff and you know something about the company. And this one, I would never have guessed that this is the one that you would not know anything
it's just
about.
that, look, this is, I don't know if I don't know if I know if I want to admit this, but yeah, I don't have friends that invite me to play games.
Yeah, but I would have thought you would have at least remembered the advertisement. You know, it's a pretty iconic ad that has been done. You know, it was the one where you know, when it was back in the late 70s, and you know, it was two kids
This was
playing
around in the
and
70s.
yeah, yes.
Did I just wake up from a
And
coma?
you must have. There was a really iconic advertisement where the two little kids would be playing, and the girl would say, "You know, I won," and the boy would go, "I can't see it. Where?" And then she would point out the 4 in a row, and he'd be like, "Pretty sneaky, sis," and then pull a little thing, and all the pieces would fall.
Yeah, I have
I
no
mean,
memory of
it
this.
was. Where were you from?
That's
Nebraska or something
basically
like
it. Yeah, we
that?
were too busy working on
Jeez
cornhole
Louise.
technology.
I guess. I guess. Anyway, this is gonna be interesting for you as
I
well.
know. I can't
So,
wait.
so it was launched in 1974 by Milton Bradley,
No, it
and today they
wasn't.
sell. It was.
Okay,
Wow.
go ahead and weave your little story.
And they only sell they only sell piddly 10,000,000 a year, and you've never heard of them. Just to haunt you, I'm bringing one to the academy.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
It was invented by a guy by the name of Howard Wexler, and the thing that's interesting about Howard has dyslexia. He had a hard time reading in school. He had a hard time reading like the rules on games, and he loved making models and building physical things. But he didn't like look. People didn't know how to handle that at the time. Like, what the
Yeah,
heck
you're
do you
just
do?
broken.
What the heck do you
Yeah.
do? Yeah. So he's in college and he's taking a course and he learns about dyslexia, and it's like an eye-opening moment for him. And so he gets a PhD in psychology with a focus on child development, which is also remarkable given, you know, what he's struggling with,
Sure.
and he managed
Yeah.
to get a PhD. And he's making up toys with the kids that he's working with in this child development program, and he decides he wants to go all into making toys. So he gets a job at Hasbro making toys.
Okay.
And there's few people at the time in the toy industry with a science background. So the first thing he does was make, you know, like the little
Yeah. So you
mobiles,
hang
whatever you
above a
call them,
crib.
hang
Uh huh.
above kids. Yeah, that's one of the first things that he made. And what he did is he made one that the baby would like. He took it from the point of view of the baby. So very three-dimensional, black and white, high
Mm,
contrast, all of that. And they were the first to do that sort of thing. And it was very, very successful. But he got really frustrated because most of the ideas he created were being rejected. He got really frustrated with that corporate environment of I'd create this idea and it would get turned down. So he decided he wanted to become an independent toy inventor and he left
okay.
Hasbro. But he's got this problem.
Stay tuned. We're going to wrap up this story and tell you how to apply this lesson to your business right after this.
Social post?
Yep.
Grinding it out?
Yep. Content treadmill.
Are you getting hearts and likes?
Sometimes just a little bit.
You're consistent?
Daily, just like my coffee.
They're entertaining?
I think so.
So?
You think it's worth it?
Don't know. Ask the host.
This podcast host?
Yep. Oh, and you can book your free starter session on this podcast website.
Take it away, Dave.
Let's pick up our story where we left off, and trust me, you haven't missed a thing.
But he's got this problem. He's got no money coming in, needs to find a success, and he gets an apartment near the toy industry, and he's drawn towards strategy games like checkers and chess and Parcheesi, but he notices they're all horizontal. So he thinks, what if he could make one of these games
Now
vertical?
wait, I've got questions. He got an
Yes.
apartment near the toy industry. Is there a place like that
Well, basically, he got one near Hasbro. Yeah.
near Hasbro? Okay. Honestly, I thought North Pole.
Okay. Well, this is maybe a reason why you don't know anything about Connect 4.
Okay.
So he has this whole idea of what if you could take one of these games, make it vertical, right?
Okay,
Because
yeah.
he thinks about this stuff differently, right? So he starts off with playing around with plastic tubes and ping pong balls, and he starts playing with it. But he has a hard time defining the goal because for it to be a game, you need to have a goal.
Sure.
What's the
Yeah.
fun? And all of a sudden he realized, well, what if you could do tic-tac-toe
And
vertically?
you have to
And he starts playing with ping pongs, but they're too big. So he starts going to checkers, which are
yeah.
slim and more familiar. He also finds out playing around with that 3 in a row is too easy. So basically 4 in a row ends up becoming a better game. But the real question becomes how many columns, how many rows? He does lots of experimentation with columns and rows. And the first design of the game has an early flaw because you had to tip the game over to drop the checkers out. Now, what he found was the kids loved the sound of the checkers, hitting the table,
Mm,
but the turning it over was awkward. So he created like a little lever on the bottom of the game that would drop the checkers out. And so when you hit that release button, there's the sound, there's the tactile nature of all of it, and there's the fun ending of the game with it being that way. But here's the challenge. It's
yeah.
1973, and if we think back to the toy industry in 1973, electronics was all the
Sure.
rage.
Yeah.
And Connect 4 had no bells, no whistles, no electronics, and basically he went shopping it around and no one was
Okay.
interested. But he decided but he didn't give up on it. What he realized was Milton Bradley already
So
made
they've got the
checkers.
pieces.
So he's got the pieces. All they need to do is make,
Yeah.
the frame. So he went to them because all they had to do is pick up the grid, and Milton Bradley went, well, what the heck? Well, we'll pick the game up because all we need to do is make the
Yeah.
grid, right? But they weren't super enthusiastic. Like for the first bunch of years, it was buried in the back of the Milton Bradley catalog. It wasn't even in the game section. But it started to sell a little bit by a little bit to enough that by 1977, they started to advertise, and it's literally considered one of the most iconic advertising commercials out there with the two kids playing. And, the girl saying, I won, the little boy saying, I can't see where. And she points it out. And he says, pretty sneaky, sis. And then pulls the lever and the checkers
I
fall
gotta find
down.
this ad.
And it's called Pretty Sneaky Sis is the name of the ad, and sales skyrocket. And he's still making games. He's making a lot of games, Howard Wexler, and he's actually kind of nicknamed in the industry Toy Doc,
Wow. Okay.
which is kind of cool. But what I really liked about this is he kind of leaned into his
Sure.
weakness in terms of struggling with dyslexia, moved him towards let's build a game that's really simple and easy. Like as soon as you say Connect Four and I handed you the game, you would know, okay, I got to connect four together. He basically took something familiar, tic tac
Mhm.
toe, varied it a little bit, and made it vertical. Like one of the issues that we forget with these what we label as learning disabilities or learning challenges is often the thing is they not that it's a disability, it's just look at the world
Absolutely,
differently.
yeah.
And what he was doing is he was looking at things and going, how can I take these strategy games and make them
Mm.
vertical? Which I thought was really amazing. But the other part where I admire is he's shopping the game around, and of course he he first of all went to the places that he where he had worked at previously, but then he looked at it and said, well, wait a minute, how do I reduce the friction
Mhm. Mhm.
if I use checkers and I go to a place that already makes checkers? This is a really easy game for them to pick up because the big part of the game, all of these checker pieces, they're already making for nothing. Like for not, let's throw some checkers in a box like that, like
Yeah.
nothing,
You could
right?
probably, include a cardboard checkerboard with the game.
Right, like the
Yeah.
box was probably actually that would be really interesting. Go back and look at the original size of the box. It was probably a checker size box just printed differently. But I just really admire him for looking at and going, okay, how can I make it easy for somebody to make this game, right? Because he first of all went back to Hasbro because he was working at Hasbro, but then realized Milton Bradley would be the one that would
Mhm.
be ideal for making this.
Yeah, now well, as I sit here, I'm racking my brain trying to figure out how did this thing how
How
did
did you not know about
and
it?
so, maybe my parents raised us in a very horizontal household. I don't I'm like, they were Presbyterian, so was there something about a vertical game that just doesn't make any sense? And when I Google the ad, it says that it's a 1981 ad. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case. The pretty sneaky says, but I was off to college by then. So there's a
Okay.
chance that the marketing slipped past me. I was gonna say maybe it was in there was like a decade of my life that I didn't watch any television, so I don't like.
Right. So it may have been just
But
in
that
may
was
have
like
been
the
just in that
Seinfeld
time.
era. What a cool story. And honestly, as someone that's a bit neurospicy myself, I love the idea that as the dyslexic invented a game that made more sense to him. Right? I think
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I know that I've seen the game, like, I've seen people playing. I have never played this game.
You may
Maybe
want to
so.
now. I'll bring you a copy. And when I came across this, I immediately thought of you, and I went, I have to do this because Dave would really
Yeah,
appreciate. No, but you would appreciate how he approached this
yeah.
challenge and the fact that he, looked at the world differently and allowed him to make this really incredible, simple, fun, successful
Well, and
game.
I'm guessing that when he left Hasbro, he didn't have a family yet.
I don't know for
Man, that
certain, but it
can you
kind of makes
imagine
sense.
working up the nerve to leave your kind of your dream job, right? You want to work for this game
Yeah.
company, and you're working for one of the biggest and best. But they're
Right.
not seeing the world the way you do.
Bingo. And how often, and look, how often have we experienced that where it drives you absolutely crazy because you just know in your heart something's going to
Yeah,
work?
I hand it to him for that to know
Yeah.
himself well enough to say, you know what? They don't see the world the way I do. I'm going to quit trying to pretend that I see it the way they do. And that's honestly one of the
Yes.
biggest challenges for anybody that's neurodivergent, ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, autism is you do this thing called masking where you're like, oh well, I've got to conform, and so you try your
Yes.
best to not let anybody figure out what's different about you.
And one of the things that's great in the world today, look, we always need more progress, but when I look at the school system today, like I look what my kids went through versus what I went through, and there's no question more progress is required, but way more open to adjusting to allow kids to thrive. Because the other part is, as I said, we label it as a learning disability, and it's really not. It's just about looking at the world
Yeah,
differently. And often that different view can lead to some
Absolutely,
brilliance.
absolutely. Well, I got to hand it to him, and now I'm obligated to. I was going to say play the game, but at least watch the commercial. I don't-
There you go. It doesn't
That's
cost
easy.
anything to do that.
That's easy. Well, thank you for bringing. What is it? Connect Four. That's the name of it.
Connect
Connect
4.
Four.
That's the name of the game. I cannot believe this is the one that you didn't know anything about.
Like I said, it's not my fault. I was Presbyterian and Nebraskan. Thanks, Stephen.
All right,
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please share us, subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and leave us a big, fat, juicy 5-star rating and review at Apple Podcasts. And if you'd like to schedule your own 90-minute empire building session, you can do it at empirebuildingprogram.com.